keep standing back from your painting while you're going along so you can get a kind of overall picture of it. Should we lift out a little highlight on there? So he's got a blaze coming down his nose. That's quite fun to do too. And that one. Oh, and that one, why not? Yeah. Okay, we make adjustments as we go along, so don't worry too much about it. So, I'm going to carry on with these horses and I'll come back to you in a moment when I've done that. Okay, I'm back again. I've just finished off the horses on this side. Quite happy with that so far. What I want to do is, if I look at my reference photogram, again my black and white photo, you can see it's really quite dark here in the foreground. If you squint your eyes, you can see how dark these horses are against this dark foreground here. So I quite like what I've got there, but I'm just going to wet it again. So I use my large mop brush again, my cat's tongue brush. I'm just going to wet this area slightly so it's going to be damp, and I'm going to introduce some of those colours from the horses into the foreground just to bring some of that shadow. I don't want to reactivate my paint if I can help it. I'm being very, very gentle, and all I'm going to do is bring some of that colour down into the foreground wash here. So I'm going to bring some ultramarine, and I'm going to bring it from their feet just down the page, so from where their feet leave off, just bring it out here a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of this is the ultramarine. I'm going to add a little bit of the burnt sienna to that as well, which will grey it down a little bit. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So a little bit of this as well. Let's put some of this over here. Get some of this going as well. Be brave, just go for it. I have to tell myself that as well. So that's quite nice, I quite like that. That's just darkened it down enough, and I'm going to reclaim those bright whites that are coming through the highlights with a damp brush, so I'm just pulling those out again. Yep, let's just bring a bit of that over here. And as I said before, because it's still wet, I can just still put colour in there, so I'm going to be a bit brave and put some darker darks under the horses. I don't want to overwork this if I can help it, because there's always a danger of overworking it. You've got to know when to stop, and sometimes that's difficult. I'm going to soften those top lines because remember that's dust, so we're just going to soften that. Don't be too precious about it, just go for it. Mix a little bit more of the blue. It's still wet, so I can still keep adding colour. And a bit more of the brown. Let's get colourful. How's that looking? Okay, I think I'm going to stop there before I go too crazy. Yep, I'm going to stop there. Let this dry, and then I'll take off the masking fluid, and then we'll just do a few finishing touches. So join me in a moment. Okay, the painting is dry now, and I'm starting to pull off the masking fluid. Make sure you've got clean fingers and dry fingers when you do this, and make sure the painting is completely dry before you rub off the masking fluid. Otherwise you could smudge paint around and ruin your masterpiece. We don't want to do that, do we? No, we don't. So now you can see all those lovely bright highlights coming in, some of which I'm going to soften out because I don't want them quite that bright. Okay, I'm going to take a clean brush and just get rid of that masking fluid, all the little bits and bobs, because we don't want them going on the paint. If you run your finger over, you can just feel if you've missed any bits. But I think I've got most of them now. There's a little bit there. A little bit there. Yep. Okay, that feels good. So far so good. It's looking good. Right, so as I said, we're just going to soften out some of those highlights. So I'm going to take a small brush. Let's have a look here, see what I've got. I've got hundreds of brushes. I just want to take something with a bit of oomph on it. Yep, I've got a little scrubby brush here. So I'm going to take a little bit of tissue. So I've got a scrubby brush and tissue. I'm going to dampen the scrubby brush and dry it on the tissue, so it's just barely damp. And I'm just going to go around and soften some of these highlights because you can see they're really harsh. So this takes a little bit of time to do this. All I'm doing is reactivating the paint and pushing the paint into those highlights, so it just softens them out a little bit. I'm actually going to switch to a different brush. I think this one would be better. Okay, let's try this one. Holds a bit more water. That's better. So, yeah. So we just want to soften these highlights out a little bit. And then you can blot them, just touch them with tissue. Push these out a little bit. A bit more water. There we go. Soften these out a little bit. I'll do the front horses first so you can see how this works. And you can add some more highlights if you want to by reactivating the paint with the damp brush and put a little blaze on there, some of their foreheads. It kind of suggests where their muzzles are as well. Just softening these out. So get a bit of highlight on them. Not too harsh a highlights. So quite harsh. So just pushing back the paint and softening that line out and that one as well. Let's soften this out. You can also shape the head a little bit better by doing this too. Maybe a little bit on his muzzle, across there. Yeah, I'll soften that highlight out down here and on here. Except some of these highlights we don't actually need so much, so we can get rid of those. So I'm just going to do the same thing with all these highlights, just to soften out areas as I go along. and join me in a moment. Okay, so I've softened out the highlights. I've got one or two that I've left in there, which I can adjust if I want to. There's one there that's a little bit too harsh, so I'll just soften that one out as well. My damp brush, maybe that one there as well. But take your time with this, just go around and take them off, and you know, whatever you're happy with. I've also noticed that I missed one of the little background horses there, so I'm going to put him in as well, just for good measure. And I think I'm going to call that done. Hope you enjoy this as much as I enjoyed painting it for you. Like I said, you've just got 4 colours to worry about, so they all blend beautifully well together. You're not going to mix mud because you've got too many colours. There's just 4 colours, and they're all colours that blend together nicely. So yes, thank you very much, and watch this space for some more tutorials coming up very soon.